Makes me cry. No, I know Andrea really well, and so it might not be as hot as usual. But I do want to, do a couple things tonight. And number one, I want to introduce Andrea to the community, and then I will have a few tough questions for her, but I want her to kind of tell her story first, so that you guys understand and kind of know where she came from. You know what? I'll do that later. I have some plugs that I want to do too. So I forgot my commercial stuff. We get right into it though. Okay. So Andrea, good friend of mine. We talk all the time. And one of the things about Andrea is that she got into this not knowing much. I know that about all this that was going on. And what she did know was she just didn't. You see all these cities and you see all these boards. You have the Enumclaw board or the Federal Way board or the Kent board or the whatever it is, and these community boards, and you hear all these people talking about the problem and complaining. It's like a new concept that Andrea went. She didn't even post like, look at all these needles. She just went and picked them up. And it's like, and then to her, I know that to her, that was like, that's what you do. You just go pick this shit up. And then we'll start there where unbeknownst to her, she's told she's a bad person for that. So let's kind of start with that. And then maybe where you came from and work in corporate America. And
yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. Can everybody at home hear? Is this picking up my voice? Can we verify?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'll verify it here on Zoom.
Great. Well, yeah, I've been in King County since 97. I'm a corporate employee, or was up until June 28th, as a once startup operator of a startup called Smart Mail. We got bought out by the DHL brand conglomerate corporate logistics company. I then went into sales. I worked from home. I don't have children. Just a little personal background. I got divorced during the pandemic. I also started We Heart Seattle during the pandemic. I also just recently lost that corporate cush job of more than half my life on June 28th due to economic downturn. But, you are running a movement that happens to be a nonprofit. And also I threw my hat in the ring for this candidacy, and suddenly I'm laid off, and I didn't fight it. So, but a kind of a big change for me. I think I would say as a leader, you do sacrifice everything, and a lot of my world changed when I started to pick up needles. And what really happened was September 14th of 2020 was a really fateful day. Like, this is the origin story. I was walking down Stewart Street, and the wildfires had blanketed the area, and everybody was again told to stay home. People were staying home because of the pandemic. Obviously, there was no tourism, but guess who was not indoors? Right? All of the drug dealers and users, and the garbage was everywhere. The needles were everywhere. But I didn't just start picking up the trash first. I literally exhausted every governmental agency for about 4 weeks. SPR, SPU, SDOT, WashDOT, parks, fire, cops. Where's the Denny family? Where are the outraged tree people? Where is everybody? There's needles everywhere. There's trash in our alleyways. Our parks were inaccessible for all, especially our most vulnerable population. A lot of our low-income housing projects for the disabled, seniors, and families with disabilities, and people suffering from drug addiction live in those housings that needed access to our parks. And so literally after all, the Find It, Fix It app wasn't working, the Adopt a Street program, everything was on hold, and COVID was an excuse, and apparently waste management was not an essential service. And so I put some money in the bank account, started what's now We Heart Seattle, a Facebook page the very next day, and went to Home Depot and bought garbage bags, pinchers, gloves, and went to the needle exchange place and got sharps containers, and had my first litter pick on October 17th of 2020 at Denny Park. And we kind of did around the park cutesy with our red wagon, because we didn't know what was going on in the park. There was 150 tents. garbage everywhere. Needles were everywhere. You can see that like sparkled throughout this oldest central park we have in downtown. And then I had another one and I got a little bit bolder and realized, people who were living rough came to me and, well, who are you? It was sort of like that movie Popeye, when Popeye sees Popeye and he's like, who are you? And I'm like, well, who are you? I'm like, well, I did the lady. And then he's like, well, we're just here living and this is our garbage and my poop bucket. And what compels you to pick up my needles and cookers and tourniquets and cotton balls and baggies that all had King County on them, right? And so I'm like, all this stuff was coming from King County, that's my taxpayer. Then I started asking questions and they started picking litter with me. And what's now become, this movement where we've picked up 1.3 million pounds of trash, 35,000 needles. Grimly, our volunteers have found 12 corpse in tents and RVs and in our green belts. Are like a thing right now. It's like, I want to solve these problems top down and why I put my hat in the ring. But we coalesced the neighborhood through direct action. We coalesced by bringing the media together. And I knocked on every door I could to rattle every cage I could to figure out what is going on. How come nobody's doing anything about all of this, And some other positive outcomes, were that we started, the very first person actually I housed is dead now because we housed him in a low barrier facility. Eventually he got bumped around. He was a schizophrenic, not on fentanyl, but he ended up dying of fentanyl because he became a mark in his low barrier housing by addicts and dealers because he got the $750 a month check. Some of you may know how that works, but these were like the hard truths I started to learn when I started digging around as a untied tongue and untied hands, because I was not government and nobody was in charge of me. So I got to say whatever I wanted to the media. I got to expose the needle exchange on social media. I was pretty flippant early on and I created a lot of enemies early on.
Now talk about that.
Yeah.
Tell them a little bit about, were you shocked when you doing an act such as cleaning up a park and trying to help people?
Mm-hmm.
Were you shocked at the backlash, or was it like?
I mean, I would say people started coming out of the woodwork who were like, oh, you're going to piss off the homeless industrial complex and you're getting into this space that's very controversial and you're shaming the needle exchange because, like, I just say call it a needle dispensary or call low barrier housing hospice care or hospitals, because you're just barely even taking care of it, people at that point. But the backlash that Art's talking about, really came one fateful day. A few months later, it was January 1st of 2021. And I was at Miller Park in Capitol Hill by myself poking around because we were going to clean up there on the holiday. And we always scout and get permission and get camper buy-in and safety assurance. And this group of people were grilling hamburgers in this park with this encampment around the community center and a soccer field and play field. And I was all branded up and these people were like, well, who are you? Again, another one of these like, who are you? And I go, well, who are you? I'm Andrea. And they're like, well, what are you doing? And I go, well, I'm picking up the trash that you're standing on and the rats are feeding on. What are you doing? Well, we're feeding hamburgers to the homeless. And I said, well, you're enabling them. And that was the day I was cooked. And that went viral to all the mutual aid people and all the leftists and Antifa. And it was like, this is this girl. She looks like a cop even, because I had a vest and a badge and a lanyard and a logo, because these people are also anti-capitalist, NATO, anti-military, decriminalize drugs, defund the cops, socialize everything. They're very much a type that controlled our city and still do to some degree, right? We're in a very historical time shift. And we are part of that movement of saying, hold the phone, this isn't working. And so Art hates this about me, but one person at a time, I started housing them and taking them to treatment and realizing that we are outreach workers too, because we have this natural connection to people while we did this waste management as harm reduction. And because we weren't coddling and tuna sandwich or bologna sandwich or pounding out pipes and foils and needles or showing up with a truck full of donations, but that we were doing something that's actually really respectful, which was picking up all the garbage. And we did it with everybody, was all hands on deck. And that level set the power dynamic and built trust with people who have lost trust in the system, and why we, I think, are more easily able to get people, to accept services and go indoors, call their family, try treatment, even if it doesn't work the first time, but to start again and start again and then start again. And that has been pretty successful for a low normal person that didn't have any money and realized it doesn't actually take a lot of money. It takes love and leverage.
Well, we're underestimating, one of the things she's doing is she's not really mentioning the heat that she did take. I mean, this is public. This is people on Como News. This is on Facebook. And there literally became a enemy of We Heart Seattle page, correct?
Yeah, there's a We Heart Seattle exposed page, which is pretty effective. The whole entire city leadership, up until barely even now, I only have a few council members that are saying my name.
Yeah.
But the opposition wrote a attack letter that basically said, don't work with We Heart. They're not real. They're not professional. They don't know what they're doing. They're not licensed. They're calling themselves case managers or case workers. They're calling, they're taking people's phone numbers and their social security numbers. Because we, of course, were doing things like signing people up for healthcare and things like that. And that letter went widespread and really kept us, and still to this day, as like I tried to refer somebody to the Salvation Army the other day on the hottest day of the year. She had no shoes. She still had her scrubs on. She just got out of Fairfax. She's a 23-year-old girl. And the 3 women at the Salvation Army wouldn't even look me in the eye like, we're all done for the day. And I'm like, no, it's only 1:40. And I just kept looking at them. I'm like, are you really going to deny this woman service because you don't like me? Because I tell you that your low barrier program doesn't work. And I'm not even talking about the Salvation Army. I like the Salvation Army, but they know that widespread, I'm outspoken and I've tattletaled. And they don't like to be tattletaled on. I'm boxed out of being able to enter Plymouth housing. My face with horns, like cute little face on this little horns. And it says not wanted, where my friend died. And I couldn't get in to save him because I was not let in. I mean, this is how evil it is. And don't get me started. We can talk about the campaign and how my own party won't talk to me either. So
in the backstory, I met Andrea, was it 3 years ago or 4 years ago? Right here in this room. And Andrea, from a mutual friend, hooked us up and knew that we had these similar philosophies and kind of that we would dig each other. So I met Andrea, and this is where I was always hesitant. Unlike her, I didn't want to face the scrutiny. Well, one of the reasons was not just that I didn't want to face the scrutiny. It's also I didn't want to paralyze myself from being able to do the work that we already did. And so there was a concern where I wasn't as free to get out there and just say things. But I watched her and I was like, okay, well, let's see how this is going to go. Let's see if she makes it out alive. Because I don't know if you remember, but there was a gentleman before her and his name was Christopher Rufo. And Rufo went really public against the homeless industrial complex. He spoke out in complete logic and he said real logical things. And for that, they threatened to kill his family and they ran him out of town. And I mean, death threats. And I remember going, oh, I don't want no part of this. Like, I want to be able to still operate. And so along this time, that led to this idea that we would just bow out as Bow Film, go to Vegas. You all were there for that. And we did that to kind of say, but while in Vegas, I watched Andrea from afar. And I will tell you that she's one of the reasons we came back here. Because I went, oh, she kind of broke ground. She's now made it possible to speak your mind and to say the logical shit now. And so that's our kind of, and then I came back and I immediately called Andrea and said, I want to get involved. I want to start, you know, working with her because, you know, it took real power and guts. And I keep saying that she underestimated, and we're underbidding what it really took and what she had to do going home at night and hearing that you're a terrible person every night and going home at night and watching the shit about you every night when all you're doing is literally trying to help people. It's an odd thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, really, really earned my respect to say, I want to come back and give her a hand. And so that's what we did. So then you go along and you've now kind of flipped people, right? Well, I think one of the things that happened is they started getting more scared of her than than she was scared of them, which is very important, right?
Yeah, there's definitely, in fact, a prior colleague of mine who he won't mention anymore, but same kind of thing happened to him in Oregon where he was a disruptor. And then about 2.5 years into it, everybody kind of started to get in line and not totally follow the leader. I don't think I'm there yet, but that I'm a force. And I didn't give up. I didn't flash out. I didn't burn out. I just kept getting people off the streets into treatment, unified with family, jobs, you know, and showing up during the sweeps and mitigating arrest and reducing harm. And we were there on the ground. You know, we have a couple paid staff that are out there all the time. And like, we didn't flash out. And now, yeah, the big players like Reach and Lead and these programs, including our city council on the dais, are saying We Heart is part of the team here, and we are being relied on for our friction-free services because people know I can get a bus ticket. I can put, like an example, this happened last week. The police called us along with people of the Unified Care team and said, can you help this family of 3 with a 7-year-old and help get them a hotel for 3 nights until we can get them transferred to the east side into this family program that couldn't take them until mid next week. And we are that friction free. We'll put people in our car. We'll use our credit cards. We'll check people in. It's a little bit risky, but without a little courage and a little risk, you know, I think that's part of the reason why we're not able to solve as many problems with government. But that private public collaboration really worked well last year when the existing establishment and law enforcement reached out to We Heart to help this family because they knew they would have to go through a mound of paperwork to get it done. And we have to step and go, okay, what are the risks? Will the 7-year-old flee? Are the parents stable? What if you get in a car wreck and kill the kid?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's risks to transporting families and why people don't do it. But I'm like, this is why they stay there on the street and die. So having this friction-free private model is genius and disruptive and a good shadow to the government effort. And I did an interview with the blog a couple weeks ago, and you know, I was at the farmers market up in Capitol Hill waving my campaign signs for about 30 seconds in. Of course, there's a guy on fentanyl trying to sell real change papers to make $75 a day. And I struck a conversation with him, donated to his paper, and I don't know what it is, but I had something that all of a sudden he just said, you know, I'm actually trying to get off of fentanyl, but I'm waiting for my bed to free up. And I drew my phone and I had a bed for him at 4:30 that same day. We went shopping. He walked to the nearest dumpster, cracked his pipe and threw his drugs in a dumpster. And I took a $300 Uber and sent him to Bellingham, where he went to Pioneer Human Services. And then he called me. He's like, I'm out. Meet me at the train station. And then so I don't sit in Seattle more than a minute. And then I'm going to Port Angeles to my long-term inpatient care that was all covered by insurance. And the question by this journalist was like, well, how do you scale that? Well, that all sounds good. You know, I went to the farmer's market and within an hour, I got a guy off the streets. Like, that makes me feel great.
Mm-hmm.
He feels great. He's crying. He's like, I've been waiting for months for someone to help me like this. The billions of dollars can't help him. And I said, I think it is that it's not government. that it is as much as we will need leverage points and law enforcement and assertive outreach to help people make that state of change, it really is a human to human thing that we just need more people to help the people in need, you know?
Now this is where her and I disagree.
Okay. But the question how do you scale what I just did? And maybe he's gone and he's back out on the streets, but there's some meeting of the middle.
Okay, well, let me tell you our biggest fight. Our biggest fight is because she does outreach. I don't believe in outreach. I don't believe that we should be begging drug addicts to help them. I don't believe that that is effective. And she's this is where I think she's young. I think that you're young in this game, and I think that you're hopeful. And you know, when you're young in this game and you're hopeful, you want to help the most downtrodden. You want to help the people that need it the most. But we find in this business that when you're putting more effort into somebody's life than they are, it just does not work. And part of the problem I have with outreach is that we just keep creating more people to go do outreach. So she called me and our biggest fight happened. And I'm just educating you guys on all this because this is a night with Andrea, but it's also a night with understanding what's really going on. You know, and between us and between everything. And Andrea called me and she said they got $6 million allotted for outreach from our city of Seattle. And then she said, we can get some of that money. And I got angry with her. And I said, we don't want none of that money. We don't want none of that money. We don't want no outreach money. What we need to do right now is tell them to keep their money. We don't want that money. We want the $6 million to go over to treatment beds. See, part of what she's working on and part of what really needs to happen and part of why I get mad at her for doing outreach is I think that we need infrastructure first. I think we need to put the infrastructure there first, and then we need to start holding people accountable so that they have to go to treatment and they have to stay. And for me, when we do outreach and by the way, I wouldn't really argue with her outreach either on one hand, because it's how she got where she got. And she's still in the beginning phases of this, but 10 years from now, if she's still doing outreach, we're in trouble.
Well, I would say part of the reason I threw my hat in the ring to run for office, and this came up before I even threw my hat in the ring for office, is you and I were talking about, we just got to get elected. We got to get in charge.
Yeah.
We got to stop the bad ideas.
What really happened is I told her that she's going to be governor. She joined the wrong race.
Right. But
She called me and told me she's running for Senate. I said, no, not state Senate. I said governor. So
stay out. I having the foot in the door, right? What my breaking point is absolutely with you that this is a revolving door without a mandate, without taking away civil liberties. It's a unicorn situation when somebody that we do take in stays and ends up, you know, we'll go to Josh, for example, painter who was in this program, because he wasn't mandated to be here. He wasn't here or jail. He wasn't confined. He wasn't on checking
still doing well.
He wasn't with a parole officer. So there are unicorns, and I love it when that happens, but I'm frustrated in realizing my friends are dying inside. They're not getting treatment. And we're mixing all different kinds of disabilities under the same roof. We're warehousing people. People are going downhill. And I want to be a lawmaker, and I want to change the way the money is flowing and requiring treatment or programming as part of where this money flows. And so going back to before to say, I am very young at this, but I got very quickly to the realization that we have to solve problems differently. But I think having the foot on the ground all of the time is how you continue to learn what's working and what's not. And it reinforces like, oh my God, you can send people to treatment all day. And I can have that great story from the farmer's market, but where is this person? You know, and
did they stay without a mandate?
Did they stay? And yeah, it's rare that they do. And but I can say that over and over and over again. I have my own data, my own empirical data. I have my 7-figure study that no one had to pay for except the backs of my volunteers who picked up all the trash, and to all of the thousands of people I've interacted with that have told me, you're going to have to kidnap me. You're going to have to, I can't get arrested for my warrants. King County Jail won't take me. They won't book me. I have remorse. I don't want to car prowl all day for my habit, but the system is failing me. Seattle wants me to be a junkie. And one of my participants told me, Seattle wants me to be a junkie. That is sad. And so we're hoping to change that now.
So Andrea is a Democrat. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
No, I'm kidding. And
Isn't it funny how only people that want to save lives are Republicans?
yeah, we seem to be.
But I'm a pragmatic Democrat, and I'm very much aligned with the what should be a nonpartisan approach to public safety and addressing our fentanyl crisis.
So as a Democrat, what have you learned? What have you learned so far about politics?
They're evil on both sides. Right away, well, first off, I am an elected precinct committee officer for the 43rd district. There's 49 districts in the state of Washington. My district's 43rd. I live in Belltown.
And wait, I gotta stop. I'm not a Republican, by the way, either. So please don't.
And so I thought, well, I've already been elected. I have this little precinct officer thing, and I've always voted Democratic. Not that my public voting isn't public record. I've only ever donated to the Democratic Party, and even a Women of Washington, Win with Women PAC. Mom was a Democrat, dad was a Republican. We all got along. Kind of an old school liberal. I pay taxes, help the needy. Social services are good, but of course, at some point you open up your eyes and you're like, which is West Coast wide, that these well-intended policies aren't working. And most logical, Democrats are saying, this isn't what this needs. This isn't democratic. This isn't liberal. This isn't passionate. And we're trying to put new people into office that can get elected, such as myself. But it's actually turning out to be very, very, very hard here. And that's because I am not ride or die on all of these extreme issues that have overtaken this party. Like decriminalizing drugs and defunding the cops, and don't arrest people for shutting down bridges that are blocking access to the children's hospital, for example. These are the people who are in charge of the 43rd, and they have boxed me out. They didn't endorse me. I don't have access. This is probably the number one terrible thing, is I don't have access to what's called Voter Builder, which is the tool, the aid that the Democratic Party gives to the party when you are deemed a bona fide Democrat. And I am not deemed a bona fide Democrat. And they hung their hat on the fact that was because I, probably talk the way I do about this crisis, and that I was going to be a keynote speaker at the GOP Lincoln Day dinner. They were going to pay me $5,000 to delight them with my free market, private funded solution to helping end homelessness and our trash crisis and restore our parks. And so I, of course, would naturally have taken that opportunity to talk to the Republican Party. And I had multiple gigs like that. As a founder of my nonprofit, I speak out and help raise money to house and pay for treatment to reunify people with families. My program uses our money for all of those things. And the Democratic Party saw that as me being affiliated and helping the Republicans raise money, even though I was no different than, say, the paid caterer, because I was paid as their speaker. And so they've really kind of went after me on that.
Let me tell
I
you.
didn't even do it.
So
I didn't even do
she
it.
also got canceled by the Republican Party, and they canceled on her.
Yeah.
And then she got left by her own party, and they said, we don't want you. So one of the things that happened to her, I remember she told me the story. There was this thing where all the candidates that were running in the 43rd district, right? They got time to speak.
yeah.
And then what do they do to you?
Yeah, so this 43rd precinct, it's called the Dems of the 43rd, had their candidate introduction night and 2 different times. And the first time they just blatantly apologized, like, oh, we totally forgot to put you on the agenda and the agenda was already approved, so we can't change the agenda. And I went, no, I'm here. We're gonna give me my 2 minutes to introduce myself. Mark Bullitt was on the call, and the chairman kind of went, and he wouldn't say my name, and then I was like sitting there and I go, well, so are we good? Am I, is this like, do we need a vote on this? And all of a sudden he's like, and he pointed to the clock, which he started and didn't tell me he started. And so I only ended up with like 60 seconds to say, I'm Andrea and whatever, And then the second time I got invited back, which was for my endorsement, it was how they would determine who they would endorse. And they endorsed Sean Scott. We can talk about my opponent a little bit. But they then again was manufactured confusion and hazing and weirdness and forgetfulness and really just unprofessional, uncivil behavior towards me. In fact, the chair has also smeared me online. He's just like at every chance it's, something naughty on, boy, it sure looks like you're trying hard to be a Democrat with your sign. The Democrat letter is so bold. And I'm like, well, actually, my name's bigger than that. But they're just idiots.
Yeah.
They're just really mean. The other thing that happened that I think that maybe people don't realize is Frank Chop, my predecessor, had this position for 30 years. And he's the co-founder of many of the homeless industrial complex housing agencies like Solid Ground, and Lehigh is affiliated with these programs, and they do some good for sure, but they've unfortunately turned into, in many cases, just warehousing addicts and people with untreated mental illness. He was grooming my opponent for months ahead of time, knowing he was going to surprise retire. So he was already predetermined. And this is how apparently politics works. It's already predetermined who is going to get the appointment, the election, the nominee by the party. And when he retired, Sean Scott had a website. He had $33,000 in the bank. He had the endorsement of all the other ideologues, all the other legislators, and also council members who are extreme like him. And so all his materials, I've been endorsed, I've been appointed, I already have the money. Why? In fact, he did a little video that said, normally when have already been essentially crowned by your emeritus, Speaker of the House, you wouldn't even have an opponent. How silly that I would have an opponent. And so we talk about democracy right now, right? The antithesis of democracy is to pre-appoint, to not listen to others, and not even give others a chance to be heard. When you stop listening, democracy is over. When you stop debating, good outcomes are over. And that is exactly what's happening with the Democratic Party. When ideologues keep endorsing ideologues, and things are just getting more and more and more extreme on both sides.
Well, I want to point out here that we've had several people that are part of the Democratic Party in this seat. And, one of the things that seems to be a trend is that they're fighting their own party. That really, if they want to, get things done, it's not the Republican Party you have to go up against at this point.
That's exactly right. I mean,
unless it's maybe an abortion law, but that's not even handled within our state, right? I mean,
yeah, that's exactly right. So another uphill battle. It's one thing to have opposition from people that get mad at you because you're picking up trash for whatever reason. They're mad about that. I mean, if you haven't heard, they think, well, that's somebody else's property. How dare, you go into somebody else's home, AKA a green belt or a park or under a bridge, and presume that they would want you there. You weren't invited. Don't assert your, self. And I'm like, God damn, I wish I had someone come clean my house without application. I'm pretty sure I can tell the difference between rotted food with maggots and rats and dirty needles. But I've actually asked people that hold that position. They're like, you just don't know how dark it is. You know, that dirty needle might get picked up again, and that moldy sandwich might be the only sandwich they have for days. I'm like, that's so cruel and barbaric punishment for somebody to think that the best we can do for them is to leave them there to eat a moldy rat shit on sandwich. What?
Yeah.
You know, but the way this like the party infighting that's happening, I have hope because I'm endorsed by a group called the Jackson Legacy Fund, and they're a group that is in place to recruit and help get elected moderate Democrats. And I hope the Republican Party has the same thing going on, that we got to get out of this right wing, left wing. I just want some chicken wings, you know, some good middle of the road, not the end of the road, not off the road, not off the rail, but just in the middle of the road where we start having conversations again and find compromise through common heart and through listening and good, healthy debate. And there is a historical swing happening, like me going to Raul's Freedom for Fentanyl, from Fentanyl Walk. Like my campaign, I don't even know if they know that I went, but they'd be like, stop hanging out with the Republicans. And I'm like, I can't stop.
I like these people. Yeah.
There's logic over here.
So we've talked
But I
about,
like it.
we've talked about the most wackadoodle stuff on the left. Give me some examples of some wackadoo stuff that you've seen from the right.
Well, I mean, obviously, my body, my rights. I think that the abortion bans and some of the stuff happening out of the Supreme Court, like with gun violence, like the bump stock stuff and making, I hate guns, you know, no, have one, you know,
Yeah.
but I think the abortion, you know, taking away a women's right to choose.
But have you seen that specifically by any of the Republicans in our Washington state?
No, I mean, I think that's a very valid point. I mean, I think that it comes down
That seems to be happening at a federal level, not a state level.
right, local municipalities and state need to be making their own law that works for what the voters want in this state. Yeah, and I was pleased to see that at least I know Raul's like dropping it, you know, is like, I'm not going to get involved.
Yeah.
And I think that's why like the emerging of new parties might be a right time. You know, Chris Novoselic is founder of the Cascade Party, and there's the Forward Party, and there's the Green Party, and then we're independents, and you know, Canada has 5 parties, and so do we, you know, essentially it does feel like I am this a Democrat has been split into 2 parties. I think the parties are splitting into, but if we can bring in more candidates, but it's hard to run. You have to fill out these questionnaires that want to know every little detail about who you are, and also who my ex-husband now was and what they made, what you did, what your investments are, your background check. You know, people are digging into my personal healthcare records. There's a lot that you have to go through, and then you have to do these interviews, and you know, the Seattle Times and then Stranger, and they ask you questions, and then they corner you, and you're like, I don't know everything, but they corner you, and it's exhausting. It's very, very exhausting. It's why it's hard. And by the way, you don't get paid to campaign. I mean, senators and governors are on the campaign trail for years, you know, and it's all volunteer to basically get beat down
On both sides.
on both sides, to then, for me, have a part-time job that makes $50,000 a year. This is a public servant thing that you do, you know, and you go to doorbell and you campaign, and people that are Democrats are going, the Democrats, man, and then the Republicans are like, the Democrats. Yeah. And I'm like, but I'm different. And then I'll start to say this or that, and they kind of come back and they'll go, oh, I think I might have heard about you. All right. Give me your stuff. Just like, everybody is so mad. And who can run for this position? Someone tell me. I don't know, because I don't have a job anymore. Have my nonprofit I run, and thankfully is a well-oiled machine. Thank you to my board. Stephen Morris is also sitting in here tonight. But who can actually campaign for a year as a volunteer for a part-time job that's not even in your hometown? Who are the people? They're lawmakers, they're people who have wealthy partners, or they're self-made already, or are able to then go down and lobby for their own self-interest, like their business, like their thing. And I'm not any of that, which is it's like, again, it's another like unicorn situation. And even like this far left blog interviewed me, and they were really trying to get me on a gotcha. And I was talking about affordable housing and how to help the homeless and how to better utilize taxes, and he's like, oh, you really do sound like a Democrat. But he wanted to cast me into being a right as a Democrat. And it's like, there's no gotcha with me. I swear there isn't.
Well, and here's the deal. We sit in this room, and if you listen to me talk we're talking about an issue.
Mhm.
We're sitting in this room, and for the most part, we're talking about addiction. And we're not talking about abortion. We're not talking about gun rights, which if we were, we might be talking about a whole different type of crazy on another side, in my opinion. So for me, I don't say I say I have to fight this one issue in my life, and it's fentanyl. And I have to now look at the people that are making it harder to fight fentanyl. And so if I sound like a Republican on this issue, well, I have to side with what they're doing over what they're doing over here on the left. That doesn't mean, and when Andrea sides with the right on what to do with accountability, it doesn't mean she agrees on abortion. And I think that's what we need. We need people, and we need things that aren't all in on one side with everything they do is right. We have to have people that go, I want gay people to get married, and I love guns. How's that? I mean, I want accountability for addiction, and I want, abortion to be legal. Okay. I mean, and that's like, and what she's kind of saying about politics is, if you're in politics in this state and in our country, the fringes are demanding that you agree with them on everything or you're out. And this is our number one problem we're facing as a country, because you have to agree on everything or you're out. And
right.
And I think that
Down to what's happening across the world.
And that's in calling yourself a Republican or calling yourself a Democrat, in my opinion, is a very dangerous thing to do, because you're admitting that you agree with all these issues. Otherwise, you're not a real one. And they're requiring you to be a real one. You might think, well, no, I'm a Republican, but I agree with the Democrats on these issues. That's fine. You could do that at home, but don't try to run for office. Don't try to make a difference. You have to just shut up then. And that's our number one thing that we're facing, is that we have to declare a party, and then we have to agree with everything that that party says. And if we don't, we're going to run you out of our own party. We're going to run you out of everywhere. We're not going to let you speak. We're not going to give you any money. See, she's not mentioning that there is something that's going on above that. There's called things like super PACs, right? So this is money that is a lot of money that is going to particular candidates that people will give to, that agree with everything that that party agrees with. And also, if you don't go down these party lines and agree, you're not getting access to that money, which means you're not winning campaigns. And these are the things that kind of I've learned through watching Andrea. I've learned through talking to the people that help her. And I've put myself through this kind of school here. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. And I don't know, my hope, to me, to be honest, and I'm glad that there's if you are a voter in the 43rd, I know she wants your vote. But my hope is that she doesn't win, so she can help us make a difference.
So now I'm being boxed out by everybody. I've definitely had, there's like, okay, we'll sort of kind of support you, but you're so effective not in office. But I think that there's a balance, and we'll be able to be effective, and I can block some bad ideas down in Olympia and stop bad ideas, which was kind of you and I kind of talked about, just stop throwing money, like $7 million is now the DESC is gonna. But no, the Morrison, I've talked about this Orca crisis center where millions and millions just keep getting poured on to Band-Aid and Band-Aid and Band-Aid and Band-Aid. And now you got like 5, 6, 7 agencies and facilities all stood up. And people are still gonna be like, no, thanks, not going. And you're gonna mix a bunch of different people with different disabilities to go cool off in the evening at 3 a.m.
For 7 mil.
for 7 million. I mean, oh my gosh.
Now, go ahead.
But yeah, the money is a big deal, and the control and the endorsements you get and the checks you get. It's like, people have access to you, unions, and Alliance for Gun Control hasn't endorsed me yet. But there's a lot of, again, it's my predecessor, the system of we want this guy to move forward. They've already picked him. The system's already picked him. And he's no more a Democrat than I am, if that's the case, because he's a socialist. He's a member of the Democratic Alternative Social DSA, the Democratic Socialist Alternative Party. He's a proud member and pioneer of the defund movement. He is a socialist. He's chants, let's bring socialism to Olympia. So how is he a Democrat?
Mhm.
If that's the case.
I watched some of his debates and Sean, I don't, and still to this day, when I hear defund the police, I still don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, are you literally saying we don't need cops? Is that what you mean? Because I can't even imagine. I mean, and when you find out that that's what they mean, it's shocking.
I got kicked out of a comedy club one night. It was in Belltown, and I was there with my Rotarian friend. She was going to do an open mic bit, and we were just walked across and went down into this little underground, $10 a head or something. And the MC starts out, oh, just so this is an inclusive space, and be respectful to each other, and we've got all kinds of different people coming up on stage, and no heckling, and except ACAB. And then I went and got my second round, and I went up to the cashier lady and I go, did I hear that all-inclusive person say everybody's welcome but cops? Did she say all cops are bastards? Is that? She goes, oh yeah. I go, all, just real push. Yeah, all. Maybe the one that saved even the cat and the tree, that guy.
Yeah.
She goes, here's your money back. You're in the wrong bar.
Wow.
So there's a very strong constituents of people that it's like there is a zero tolerance for a man or a woman in uniform, or they or them. There's a huge LGBTQ plus demographic in our Seattle Police Department, and statewide and nationwide, of course. And it's like, how exclusive are you?
Yeah.
That was just kind of like, I just gently just was like, there's just not room for one good guy in a uniform.
Well, that would have shocked me almost as much as it shocked me when I was in Bellevue and I came out of the bathroom and there was the women there in my bathroom. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this yet, but she invited me to a thing down in Bellevue at the W Hotel. And I come walking out of my stall and there's a woman at the sink washing her hands. And I went, oh shit. Wait, and I find out that's just what they do. It's the women's stalls are over here, the men's stalls are over here. The only thing dividing you, and we all go into the same bathroom, and then the women come out of their stalls and the men come out of their stalls, and we all wash our hands in the same sinks. And I went, this is nuts. It's nuts. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to do my dirty work in front of women.
And I mean, you get down into the policy positions you take in the weeds around, education and gender affirming care, and should trans people go into the sport, compete in the sports if they're not the biological. And I've been been learning a lot about this matter, and it's one of those, like, you just don't even flinch. You have to be ride or die on the most extreme point of view on something that I don't know anything about, and the science may or may not be there, and I'm learning, and I'm open-minded, and I'm listening, and it's pretty much, I gotta just keep learning and listening. But I think about the Olympic spa and it's a women's spa, but if you identify as a woman, you're going there, and you see parts that you don't expect to see, and trying to normalize that is uncomfortable, and it's a uncomfortable conversation, because this is real for people who want to be with whoever they want, and sort of contrary what we are calling social norms. It's down to, well, Halloween's really in August now. Why does Halloween have to be in October? I'm wearing my Halloween hat in August. I mean, this is like literally a conversation I had with somebody that worked at Ace Hardware. It's like, is it fucking October? It's August. And I went, gosh, it was like the lady I got at this thing I did at Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they don't wear shoes. And I said, we canceled shoes? Like, we don't wear them because it's a social norm that we believe that we have to wear shoes.
Yeah.
So that social norm thing is maybe something it's mental floss for sure. It speaks for good conversation, I guess.
Yeah. Fun time.
Fentanyl, what are we gonna do about it?
Okay, so we're gonna open it up. Questions for Andrea. Anything you want to know, and then I'm gonna ask her one of my hot seat question tonight. Maybe a couple, but gotta at least get her nailed down on something. So who's up? What's anyone thinking? I mean, we could just keep.
Question. What do you think your odds of this kind of?
Can you repeat the question, Art?
Yeah.
The odds, what are the odds?
What are the odds that she wins?
Getting through the primary seems to be, my campaign believe I'll get through the primary. Daniel Cursulo, he is also, in the race. He got endorsed by the Seattle Times, which we believe was really vital for me to have a strong win through the primary, which would be ideal, versus barely squeaking by.
How many make it out of the primary?
Two. Yeah. So it's going to be a tight three-way race at this point, I believe. I don't think it's going to be a landslide either way. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I hope that the grassroots movements in the voter base out there that will go, oh yeah, that girl, I like her. I remember her story, or seeing her, that there is some name recognition, and that my grassroots movement should be my winning ticket. At the same, nobody has boots on the ground, practical field work like I do. That is what is needed in Olympia, is real empirical evidence of somebody that was in it deep and has this community, my educators, and the lives we've lost, and the ones that are through it that told me what worked for them, like all of that. And like, why the hell do we have millions of pounds of trash on our, and we're talking about taking away people's natural gas to heat their homes? I'll talk about that in like 10 years after all the garbage is up, because soil health is the number one way you can offset global warming. So let's just say good. We'll get through the primary, and then it will be a completely different race. I think in the general, I'd love to join this community in doing like a big freedom from fentanyl march again, bigger, stronger, faster, and kind of piggyback on what Dr. Garcia did on Sunday. Thanks for those of you who've turned out for that. Some simple things I think we can do is just empower, put pressure on our mayor he is the executor, and he is in charge of making the order for things like just confiscate the fentanyl off the streets. Maybe we're not arresting our way out of this, and we're not building our way out of it quite yet, but I think like really short-term incrementally, we should be doing things right in front of our faces, like, talking about like, how did we protect our own border? Where's the governor saying no drugs allowed? Big, bold, big billboard. You are in here as a dealer, you will get picked up and not just spent 72 hours, but something more accountable for the dealer. Treat the deaths like homicides. We don't treat overdose. In any other world, you're found dead. there's an investigation, right? Was it harmful death, wrong? Did you get manslaughter? Did someone slip you too many pain pills? Did you do it yourself? Was it suicide? What, we don't even investigate drug overdoses, just dead fentanyl overdose, self-inflicted. That's bad.
Mhm.
That's an immediate thing you can start doing, is to investigate the train on that. But any other questions about strategy? I've been doorbelling. We've raised good money to do these mailers and do signs and pay for a guy to kind of tell me what to do. But of course I could just do things the way I want to do anyway.
So what have you learned since you first started picking up trash to where you're at now? The same thing, same question goes to you first put your hat in the race.
Yeah.
To now.
So question is, what did all this trash, picking up the trash, the truth lied beneath the trash? We have an addiction crisis, not a housing crisis. And so I have a lot of counter narrative to housing first, that it's really this untreated mental illness and addiction that keeps people outside and that door revolving, right? So I've learned a lot that, by picking up the drug paraphernalia and kind of beating that one to death. And then as far as putting my hat in the ring, is that there is an opportunity to make a difference from the top down by amending, creating new legislation on ways to just better use our money and give better policy. Though what sickens me is to talk about Ricky's Law and like starting to get into the weeds a little bit more and go, we've actually passed this incredible law, the most progressive law there is to mandate and take away people's civil liberties in the name of saving their lives, and we don't use it. And so just having the position of more power to get in and ask questions and figure out more and pull back that curtain even more. Why is it that somebody is not taking more action? Is it the governor? Is it the mayor? We should be, I was in City Hall today for a couple hours, and people are going up testifying going, why doesn't anybody do anything?
So
Why aren't we
I
doing anything?
want to, we had Mark Mullet was here. He said we would do a follow-up call with the SHS and Washington Healthcare Authority. And he did that. And I was on that call today. And what she's talking about with Ricky's Law is like, this is about 2 weeks ago. I watched each governor campaign, and in the governor campaign, the interview with the Seattle Times, and each one of them, they asked if mandated treatment was a good idea. And of course, Reichert said yes, and Mullet said yes. And then, there's discrepancies on the other side with Ferguson and whether he would want that done. And it seems to be they think it's a civil rights issue or something on the left. And then I remembered out of my head a couple of weeks ago, I was like, wait. These people on the left, on the Democratic Party in 2019 passed Ricky's Law. And Ricky's Law was forced treatment, forced detox for somebody that was a danger to themselves or others. And so now I had questions because I watched people take heat for saying on the right, people take heat for saying we mandate treatment when it was invented by, in my opinion, it was invented by the left side. They were the first ones to bring it. And back when Lauren Davis pushed this bill through, I strongly disagreed with her. I told her to her face, I said, I'm not coming down to support your bill. I hope it doesn't get passed, because the bill was $57 million. If I remember correctly, and I asked them to correct me if I'm wrong today, but they didn't. And I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but the bill was $57 million to fund 4 forced detox. And my problem with it at the time was I had couches full of people that were trying to get in detox that wanted to go. And she wanted to take them. So I didn't think mandating treatment was really a bad idea. I just thought, not time yet. I need this 57 million to go to 4 detoxes that people that want to go could go. And I remember Lauren's reply. She said, Lauren goes on the phone, she goes, that's just how it works. We get a little money and then they'll give us more later. And I go, I told her on the phone, I go, that's never been my experience with money. I go, and when I get some, they say, that's it, I just gave you some. And I go, that's just how it works with me. And so Lauren asked me to bring this. We had the week before, 2 weeks before, we had about 200 people or something like that with Battlefield at the Capitol. And she asked me to bring those peoples back for her bill route. And I said, no. I said, I don't believe in it, don't want anything. So that was the last I remembered of. But Ricky's Law got passed. And so when it dawned on me that we got that bill passed, I call everyone, I go, what are they talking about? We need a law to mandate treatment. I go, we already got it. It's already on the books. What the hell are people talking about? It was invented by the left. They put it on the books. It's there. We could use it right now. So when I asked Mark Mullet, I said, what's going on with it now? He sent me paperwork after paperwork and report after report of what's going on with Ricky's Law. And it's mostly used for alcohol for some reason. I still don't know the answer to that. And it's been operating, these beds have been operating at 50% capacity for the past 5 years. So that means there's 58 beds and only 20, some of them are ever full. And we have all these people that need help and all these people that say there's no place for them to go. And we have this funded detox and it's crazy. We're not using it. And then I went, isn't a guy that ODs on the ground in Seattle 3 times in one day and the cops come back a danger to himself? Yeah. And so my questions today, and this is where my going to school and getting investigating is just learning that the incompetence and what people really know about these issues. Yeah. So I'm on the phone with these guys and I said today, I go, so, and he kept saying, we use data and it's a tool and it's a tool. And I go, it's a tool, huh? And he goes, yeah. And I go, how do I use it?
That's the same as cops. It's like, well, what about the grants passed for, it's all, well, there's just tools.
Yeah. I go, how do I use it? And he goes, well, I'll have to get back to you that with the answer. And I go, you don't know how to use Ricky's Law? And he goes, no. And I go, okay. And then I asked him, I go, listen, man, I've talked to a lot of people in government so far, and nobody knows how to use Ricky's Law. Yep. I said, you know what I'm asking, and these guys are getting like they're thinking I had to tell them on the conversation. I go, listen, guys, I'm not a dick. Yeah. And they're like, I go, trust me, I'm not. Like, there's people that actually like me and shit, but I need these answers. And then I said, I'm reading the reports. And all the reports tell me is how many people this has served. And they go, yeah. And I go, well, I want to know if any of them have been successful. They go, we don't have that information. I go, so you now have done reports. That's like me saying, in my treatment center, I'd like to give you a report. I've brought in 1,400 people in 10 years. End of the report. And then somebody goes, are any of them sober? And I go, don't know. So my question was, are any of these people that use Ricky Law, is it effective? Are they sober? They don't know. No clue. So I said to the guys, well, I understand that you're going to go try to figure out how to use this tool, but I've talked to a lot of people in government and nobody knows. And I think it would a good idea that when you pass the bill, you should have taught people how to use it. That you should have said, hey, if your family's affected by addiction, guess what? We got to win here. We've passed Ricky's Law, and you could actually get a judge to put your person to treatment, and you could help your loved one. We got a tool. But, and Mark was on the call, and he did really good at handling me and handling them. And he goes, Art's asking pretty good questions, and he was like, but it lends to this idea that every single person that you talk to in government didn't do it, didn't cause it. I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't me. And we never get to the person that did do it. And that's going all the way up to Trump or Biden. We can't seem to find anyone that's responsible for any failure on any time. We don't know one person. And what is nice and neat to hear sometimes is when somebody says, I don't know the answer and I'll figure it out. And, one of the things that's great about Andrea and that she listens. Andrea listens. Now I've yelled at her on the phone and she stayed on the phone and listened.
I've told him to shut up.
Oh, no, when you, yeah, she goes, oh yeah, last conversation, I'm in Vegas, I'm outside because I'm supposed to be playing in a poker tournament, but this was too important that I fight with Andrea. So I go outside and I'm outside the Venetian and I'm yelling, it's 90 degrees and I'm yelling at Andrea like, we don't want no money for goddamn outreach. And I'm yelling at her and she goes, Art, shut up. She goes, shut up and listen to me. And I'm like,
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that was a good one. All right, I got a man on the street poll here. How many people, if you could raise your hand, think that every day, like everyone, because we need an army of people, I think, to lean into this crisis. But like, should we stigmatize the open air use of fentanyl, like in a way that we did with cigarette smoke, for example? Like, what can an everyday person do when they walk by and they see somebody blatantly striking a pill on a piece of foil? Should it, which, offer kindness, a connection to resource? I mean, I think that stigmatism is a question I would like. Is there, anyone have any feelings on that?
It's a bad way.
Yes, Bill.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's a public place, it's children.
Yeah.
You know, it's like stigmatizing, like, and this is a bad analogy, but like, a guy jacking off at a playground. Like, oh my gosh.
what, there's something wrong?
Like, same thing, like, why are we just like, oh, we calling them, like, oh, they're so broken, and so is this guy jumping on the playground,
Yeah.
neither are okay. Like,
Yeah,
like, what are you doing? Get out, like,
Yeah.
Right, like,
Oh, yeah.
that's right. So,
lock 'em up. Lock 'em up.
yeah. Well, I got in a fight on the way here. It's weird that you said that because Raul's campaign manager, Jenna, had posted that we need to get rid of the stigma. And I called her and said, stop with that bullshit. And she
they put on their campaign information?
Jenna did, but what Jenna's meaning by it, and so you got two different definitions of what stigma means. It either means stigma we're putting a stigma on the people that are using and doing it, but a lot of times when they're talking about stigma, they're talking about family members not wanting to talk about it. So I see how we need to destigmatize that. I see how if you're in an affluent neighborhood with a family, you don't want to go to the party and say your kid's on fentanyl. You don't want to go and say people have mental illness. It's a tough conversation and people are keeping up with the Joneses and they don't want to talk about that. So on a family level, I'd get next to that idea that, hey, families, you're okay. You didn't do anything wrong if you have a kid that's an addict. You didn't do anything wrong if you have somebody that has mental illness in your family. And it's okay to talk about because it's not a failure on the part of the family. And that kind of makes sense.
I think that's like kind of falls more in the bucket of judging or shaming or, an anonymity that people want, that this is a very hard family matter. But I'll give her a call because I'm kind of interested in.
Well, she was great in her answer and it won me over a little bit. But again, I asked her, I said, is adultery stigmatized?
Yes.
She said, yes. I said, is that a good thing? Or
Yes.
should we just say all these men that are committing adultery, they're having hard times and,
The problem's not necessarily with the addict, it's the people that believe they have the empathy and sympathies for the addict. You're not attacking the addict. That's kind of like, something in the crosshairs. That's a single situation a lot of times, but you got 10 people around you going,
yeah.
okay.
Well, that's the underlying thing here on it.
It's the enablement.
That's the underlying thing is there's not a drug addict in the world that's ever went, man, we need to get rid of this stigma.
Yeah.
With how far we've allowed this to come, what do we have to do? You know what I mean? Where are we at this point in this this fight? You know what I mean? We've allowed these drug addicts
That's right.
to smoke these pills sitting out in front of convenience stores. We've allowed these drug addicts to smoke these drugs in parks. So,
Well, you guys have done it.
and we have.
Yeah,
I've been there.
yeah.
And I've been one of those drug addicts who've been
Yeah.
on the street smoking these things. You know what I mean? And nobody's said anything to me.
Well, here's the deal.
People have walked by because That is.
They don't know what to say. They don't know how to engage and just say, hi, hi.
But
So-
here's the deal. Here's the deal. Unlike any other fight,
That's
that's
right.
right. And unlike any other fight, you know, I know that the gay and lesbian or LGBTQ plus community, for the most part, they're fighting for themselves. Okay. Somebody else didn't come in and say what they were going to be called. They said, this is what we want to be called, right? The problem with drug addiction right now is we don't have enough people like the back of this room getting angry enough and saying, hey, we don't give a shit what you call us. We're not offended. We don't give a shit if you give us free fucking needles or not. We don't give a shit if you stigmatize it. I don't have a substance use disorder. I'm an addict. I mean, on and on and on. We got to fight for ourselves. And, you know, one of the things as I see is that I hope that bringing Andrea here inspires people to go, wait. This person has went from somebody nobody knew who she was, a person who lived alone in an apartment in Seattle, was recently divorced, walking along a road and decided that she had one idea and that she would make a difference. And what a powerful thing that happened when she did that. And I think what a powerful thing would be if we had 100 drug addicts go to Seattle, recovering addicts, bring the media, bring everyone, and we'll walk around and tell them to get the fuck up. How about you put that shit away, quit shitting on the sidewalk and get the fuck up. Do what we did. And then we're telling you to get the fuck up for a reason here, because we think you're equal to us. We think you can do it. That's why we're telling you to get up. But the people that come here and tell you that they're not, see, that's a superiority thing that these people got. They think they're better than the addict and they have sympathy. If I have sympathy for someone, that means I think I'm superior to them. You see? Sympathy means I'm superior. Oh, I feel sorry for you. For what? Does anyone in this room want anyone feeling sorry for them? Yeah. Never do we want someone feeling sorry for yourself. It's like somebody comes to me. I remember when I get people in the church or something and they go, we've been praying for you, Art. Fuck you. I'll talk to the man myself. You not better than me. I don't need you praying for me. If I need to talk to the man, I talk to the man. You ain't my big brother. And that's this idea that and I think there's not enough fight in us as recovering addicts. We're not fighting hard enough. We're not letting our voice be heard. We need to do this rally. We need to be on a stage saying, stop worrying about what to call us. Stop worrying about if we need treatment or not. We need it. Stop worrying about, none of us asked you to not, no drug addict asked the cops not to charge him with crimes. The drug addicts all know it's wrong to commit crimes.
The only thing that saved my life.
That's right. None of us said, man, this sucks. I'm doing drugs and I go to steal and they arrest me. This is crazy. That never happened. So who are these people that came in to fight for us? Who are they? And that's what you got to locate. You got to find out who came in and said that they had the right of what to determine to say that we have substance use disorder and we don't. And that's the type of people we're up against. Yeah, and told us that it was trauma when we came from a nice middle class home. Who are you to tell me where my addiction come from? I remember being at the party. I remember drinking too much. I remember my friend thought it was cool. I remember how good it felt the first time I did it. I didn't do it because I was in pain. Most of us in this room, we didn't do drugs because we were in pain, did we? First time we all did drugs, we was happy as hell. We weren't in no kind of pain. We did drugs because we were feeling at the top of our game. We just got off work. It was Friday. Our paycheck was in. Our haircut was done. We had our nice car. And we decided, hey, let's party a bit. Let's feel better. And that led to this. But we weren't sitting in our room traumatized. Don't say that.
Like, go pick people and tell them to get the fuck up if we have somewhere to take them.
We do.
Where?
We do. That's the myth. That's the myth that Andrea is trying to rebut right now. That's what people don't understand. That's what people do not understand. Right now, if anyone, I'll challenge anyone. We got 4 empty beds right there. You go down to Seattle, work all goddamn week. Work for the next year. If you find me 4 people to come to those beds, oh man. Huh?
To yours?
Yeah. Go ahead. You
What-
will not do it. How many people have you actually in the 3 years? How many people actually accepted treatment out of the thousands that you've talked to?
Maybe 24.
24 people after 3 years of outreach, after talking to thousands and thousands of people. You don't think we got 24 beds? We got 24
One of the
beds.
other, I took this to City Hall last week too. After they did this hundreds of thousands of dollars of study to tell me that downtown has a bunch of addicts and that's where all the overdoses are and where all the gun crimes are. I'm like, didn't you just all look out the
They told
window?
us it came out hot spots.
Yeah, hot
They
spots.
did $1 million study to say Third Avenue was a hot spot.
Yeah.
I went down there and figured it out the first fucking day.
Yeah. But I walked down from Belltown to City Hall and I counted 311 people using, dealing, languishing in misery. At all the hot spots, I just kind of zigzagged through them. And I probably asked 10 people who were sitting down with foil and a pipe with a few friends, wearing my shirt, looked just like this, wasn't representing. I just kind of was like woman on the street pole. And of the people I asked if they had housing, 100% said they did. I live in Bell Tower. I live at Denny Terrace. I live over at Catholic Community Services. I'm down at the Plymouth. I'm up at the Humphrey. I had another woman say, by now we all have housing. By now we actually have it.
That's not, no, I mean, I used to be one of those people. Like,
Yeah.
It was that like, they didn't offer, like, they didn't make me go to treatment.
Well, wait.
But
You were at my treatment center.
Well, yeah. that's-
You had a bed and you jumped on a bus and told your family to F off and you went back downtown Seattle.
Like, I'm talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
Bro, as soon as I met you, things have been a little
Yeah.
different.
I think there absolutely are 100% people that are mistrusting the system. They don't want to go to a transitional shelter. They think I'm going to go to treatment. I'm going to just end up right back out here. So I'm not going to do that because I know I'm not ready. And so then there's no mandate. But there are places, I believe, statewide, region-wide where,
How do you change King County's mind though? That's a beehive of.
I mean, I'm hammering council, and one of the things Dr. Marbut says, is, housing first, people had housing, but who was the original? We talked about Lauren Davis being the original mandate lawmaker, but who is the original? You must be clean and sober to get housing. Who is that? You must be clean and sober to get housing. Who? Who?
Oxford House.
No, mom, dad, friend, uncle, auntie. They said you can't come home until you're clean. So now society has to just figure out how come we have a different standard than parents had in the very beginning. The very beginning was, and so I also met Deja in the alley the other day, 23-year-old gorgeous girl smoking fentanyl in the dumpsters, shit, and fucking garbage everywhere. I'm like, here's my card. And she kind of was like, all right. And her boyfriend was like, can I get a card too? I love that. Yes. I'm around the corner. And I said, let me ask you one question. If you got clean and I took you to a treatment center for 30 days, could you go home? She said, absolutely. So that's the connection why this program is so incredible, is unification with family. And the county and the state don't want to acknowledge that probably a greater portion of 50% or more could go back to where they were from if they came home after they graduated a program.
But that's tough because they've taken so much power away from parents. Kids don't have to tell their parents, they can go get medical treatments, they can get abortions, they can get, the shots for your death, whatever, pregnancy control, they're teaching all this new stuff. And the parent has no control over it, but as soon as the kid does something wrong, shoots somebody or does something, who's the first person who gets in trouble?
Yeah, you're liable. Yeah.
There's a societal double standard that says parents are not doing what they're supposed to do, but you can't do.
Have your 15-year-old hit somebody with a car and they're on your insurance. You'll pay for
Question
that.
back here.
Yeah, there's all this talk about beds and people don't want to go to these beds and this sort of thing. How many of those people you talk to can really make a decision for themselves? Their mind, they don't have a mind at this point. They
That's
have
right.
no way to make a choice.
Yeah.
But that's where they need to implement the law.
Well, Joe, that lends to what I'm trying to say is that you already know that, there's Jared And he's been offered a bed thousands and thousands of times, but he won't go. And he doesn't want to go because he's got it out there in a way that he can make it. And that's the exact thing that I talk about with Andrea about saying, stop with all these. If you go to a camp in Seattle, and Emily, if you go to the homeless in Seattle, they might have been asked to go they might have been, when we say touched, I mean, bumped into, met, had a conversation with at least 6 different outreach programs that day. I am talking money and money and money to get people services, to let them know the services are there, to let them know the housing's there, to let them know everything. And 6 different people without, and so these things are happening, but without the infrastructure, which means without the mandates,
Yeah, the mandate of people.
without the requirements, without using leverage points like laws, the things that we use to force, somebody to have it so that that decision isn't for them. Every one of us, not many of us, if there's anyone, I'd be shocked, but everyone knows to get sober. The reason we got sober was this road right here started looking very grim. This road started looking lack of resources. The road dried up. The trees didn't have any fruit on them. So I can't, but if we keep providing fruit on the trees, then people are going to keep eating it, So that's exactly, and Joe is a prime example of Andrea, somebody that has a son that's been in this fight for over 10 years now, and I've been with them more. They've been in the fight and their son has been on the streets for a good 13, 14 years.
He's 33 and he's been on the street since he's 18.
And he's been in treatment in Malibu. He's been in treatment with me. And, he's allowed to go run amok. And nothing can stop him. No one will arrest him. No one will stop him. And this is the desperation right here. The desperation of saying, God, we're losing our kid to everyone who says they love him. And Jared knows. Jared's smart. He's streetwise. He's a brilliant, tough kid. This kid's a little badass. I mean, I love Jared. And he knows, Jared's out there knowing that all these people that are helping him on the streets are just his marks. That he's just conning every single one of them. And he doesn't have respect for one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and that's why I argue with this idea. I say we need to do inreach. I say we need organizations sitting in their office and some guy coming in that just got arrested for a crime and the cops going, you can head down to Andrea's office or we can go put you in the jail. And that's it. And that guy's going to be reaching in to her and saying, I need some help.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So here's one that, something that I've dealt with through your program, Art, through the last program that I was with. Is what's this, what do we do after these 30 days? You know what I mean? What's after these 30 days? All I know with you, after these 30 days, it's milking. It's this, it's that, it's helping you get a job, it's helping you get back up on your feet, it's doing this and that. But what about these so-called state-run facilities that have all these open beds, but it's right out the door after that 30 days without.
Well, now you're pointing out big problems. Yeah.
After this. My parents saying, let me go back.
yeah, I think we have.
You know what I'm saying? So I think, to be honest with you, like that's the bottom line. Sure, getting them into treatment is the absolute bottom line, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it than that afterwards. It's like.
I think so they're after treatment.
Right.
But why, so then we have to fix that discharge piece of catching you before you hit that street and making sure you're not discharged until you have Oxford House set up or Weld Works or community housing and funding, moving the money that's feeding all the low barrier crappy shelters that you ended up with and having it be a clean and sober intake for women who have discharged. They're called re-entry programs. And the far left don't want to fund that because it's housing first.
It's not perpetuity.
It's right. It's politics. And the best thing we can all do is to exercise your superpower, which is to vote, and to start to change the pendulum to treatment first or treatment housing and funding None of the federal money, none of the HUD money, the billions of dollars that go into this go towards clean and sober housing.
Well, I
So
think
when you're out, you have a sanctuary to go to.
I think beyond voting though, and I think one of the things that I keep going back to is that, you know, the think tank is right here. The problem is that this think tank is right here. The answers are in this room. And the lack of education and the ignorance is in that room. And the problem is we need to be loud enough from this room to educate that room. And, you know, and just voting doesn't mean that they're going to get an education, because the unlimited dumbass ideas that these people can come up with never seem to end. And so this is why, and I'm going back to why I was in a fight with Andrea was I was in Vegas. Because she said, I'm in a meeting, they just told me that $6 million for outreach is being allotted. And I said, expose them. What I want her to do is I want her to stop the meeting right now. I want her to get on TV and I want to say they're about to put $6 million more into people who think they are some special powers. See, somebody doing outreach, and this isn't Andrea. I love Andrea's outreach. If I had to pick anyone doing outreach, I would take Andrea because it's tough and it's hard and it's accountable. So I do like her outreach, the way that she does it. I disagree with it, but I still respect what she does. On the other hand, these people that do outreach, the reason that they think they want to do it is they think they're a special type of people. They think they're so goddamn persuasive that what you tried to do with your kids, what everyone's trying to do, is some miracle worker is going to come in and go, I love you. And then the addict is going to go, now I'll go to treatment for you. And then the person goes, I'm a hero. I got him into treatment. And that's the ridiculous notion that these people are going by. So when they said, we're going to put $6 million more to form more people going out to try to convince, I think I'd be one of the best in the world at outreach. I really do. I would never go out there. Because I'm not going to go waste my time putting somebody in treatment that has no mandate, that's going to walk out the next day, that's going to just leave as soon as it gets tough and walk out. So I'm not going to waste my time. What I will do is say, why are we spending $6 million on that? Take the money and build the year-long treatment center right over here. Invest in 10 houses and get sober living. And let's build the goddamn infrastructure. Once it's built, then let's take the money and then now let's require people to go there. Very simple. But the money's got to go here first. And this is what we talked about very early on. I said we got to stop the money going to bad ideas. Some of the bad ideas that have been just recently is, you know, they got cops and they said, you know, we're going to teach cops to, you know, give, what is it? Suboxone. So they spent millions of dollars to have firemen, when somebody ODs, to then have the firemen be able to administer Suboxone. No, Suboxone. So now they're going to Narcan someone, and then they think this is a great opportunity to get them off fentanyl and talk about Suboxone. And they spent $1 million doing this. And she said, what is that like? And I said, it's like Safeco Field would be burning down. And then we go, we should get the fireman pizza. It's about the equivalent of that, how useful it is. And they go, well, how much is the pizza? And we go, well, it's about $10 million for pizza. Well, Safeco's burning down. Yeah, but we're going to get the fireman pizza. Well, why are we doing that? Well, who knows? But it's just, we're stupid. And that's the thing about that idea, is that it's stupid and it's a waste of money. And these ideas never stop coming.
Because they don't want to just face the mandate.
Yeah, they don't want to face what really needs to happen. And they, you know, really it's a civil rights movement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, it was a few months ago now, something like crazy, like $10 million was spent on boulders, but almost became that, so you had a camp there.
Yeah.
And everybody just put boards on top of it.
Yeah.
And it was like $10 million, but they're built a facility.
Or I like that somebody's just like, they walk up and they see the boulders, they're like, shit. Like, I'm going to get sober.
Well, it does keep the RVs away from parking behind people's businesses that need to be able to park.
Yeah.
It's just a deterrent. I got a question for you guys. So the treatment facilities that are across the country that are private funded, those nice ones in Malibu, and you hear about the $100,000 a year ones and the bougie ones in Utah, and they do ice baths and holistic care and hypnotics and all that other stuff. What if we looked at the already built facilities and we just said this person would be a good candidate for this place in Utah, and we used taxpayer money to fund a person to go to that treatment center, like not have it be so like more of a private public collaboration.
Yeah.
Just like we do here, like we
Yeah.
pay people to come here, and Sarah Nelson did that. Only $300,000, but if somebody wants to go to Lakeside Milan, for example, there's a $300,000 general fund for somebody who could go there on government money if their insurance didn't pay it. So I always just think about, like, do we need to build, or do we need to make all of these treatment centers across the region and across the country accessible to somebody and work with them as partners
Well,
to say, oh, well, we're $100,000 a year. Okay, well,
they're not $100,000 a year, they're $100,000 a month.
oh,
And
but I might spend $100,000 a month on resources to reverse an OD
But-
for
but
somebody 3 times. So,
here's
like,
the problem. Go ahead, Eric. Did you have a question?
Well, the issue with, I've been to every single treatment there is in Washington.
Okay.
And the issue is, you get your 30 days there,
Uh-huh,
and then when that's up, we're like, get out, because that bed is $10,000 a week.
okay,
So you're healed, now go deal with it.
uh-huh.
There needs to be longer treatments. And yes, there is reentry programs and things like that, but.
Well-
It's like.
Shut them down.
Well, we had Cedar, we had these
Yes,
places,
CDR was-
but again, part of the problem with what are we paying for? So when we go to pay for $100,000, is that really any different than Lakeside Milan?
No, you're only gonna clean what you clean, doesn't matter if you're a bougie.
Yeah, so the bougie treatment centers on that end, the ones in Utah, it's like if you were having knee surgery. And then you go, well, I'm gonna go, and they go, well, you can go to this place and have knee surgery. But it's like, you just get your knee fixed.
Mhm.
And that's $20,000. Or you can go to this place and get knee surgery, and they'll massage your back, and they will take you to see horses.
Yeah.
And then they'll take you to the beach, and then you'll still get the knee fixed, but we're gonna do. So
Yeah.
you're paying for these amenities.
Yeah,
And, this is part of the corruption. Not that these people are bad, not that these treatment center owners are bad people. It's just a corrupt system where the treatment is now the amenities.
Mhm.
And somehow we think that that's good. What's the heart of it? And so even when we're talking about solving this problem, what we also need to be talking about is low cost treatment.
Low cost, long term.
Low cost, long-term treatment. You've got to be talking about cost. You have to be a person that's saying, what does that cost? Because I'm not going to invest $100,000 in somebody to go to treatment for 30 days and have a recidivism rate of almost 100%.
Yeah.
I need to be able to have this money that we pay for treatment go to something that sticks. And that's, and when we're not hearing, we need to create the infrastructure and we need to do it low cost. We need to do things like we have here, which is low cost you can get.
And I want to add, or kind of add to this, and it's kind of, you guys too, is we seem to allow people to decide what their care should be. Like, I don't like this treatment.
Yeah.
It's just not working.
That's another thing. You hear
It
that,
just seems to me that it should be more standardized, and I'm kind of asking because, you guys have really been through it. How nice and supportive do you make it, and how hard knocks do you make it? Because life's a bitch. We can only flower coat it so much before we're flower coating, getting better.
We've been
beat up.
we've been through both sides of the spectrum,
That's
right?
kind of
We've been
what
through
I'm
the
Where do you
bougie treatment
guys
centers,
think
we've
would
been
be
through
a good medium?
the hard knock treatment centers, and to be honest with you.
They go to jail.
Yeah.
Jail.
Okay, wait, now wait, Emily, I gotta give you your plug.
Thank you, Emily.
No, okay,
Grab my card.
all right.
Yes, no, like I said, treatment doesn't get people clean. Treatment will never get anybody clean. You have to want to get clean. You have to be to a point in your life where you'd rather die, because that's what's gonna happen,
Right.
or you want to get clean. It just doesn't really matter about the facility.
Where you're at, and that's one of the myths that we need to also squash, is that different treatment works for different people. That's such bullshit. It's like, no, it works, different treatment works for somebody's level of really how much if I don't want to get clean at all, I'll make sure I go to a Malibu treatment center. And, you know,
Go to ABH.
yeah, if you want to get clean, you'll walk into the Salvation Army, you'll walk into somewhere. Yeah.
So does that circle back to the enablement and the Friaddle and the services? There's so much of a safety net for you to never get to a point where like, I'm going to die, because you're constantly comforted
Yeah.
and fed and.
I went to Seattle. I mean, I've been homeless in Seattle and Portland. I recently was in Portland. It was a great time to be homeless.
Which is better, Portland or Seattle? Which is better?
Depends on what you look for. LA is probably the best. It's warmer. But,
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it all sucks. You got people going around to the homeless camps, and they literally will give you dope sometimes if you're sick.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
Where's that guy with the dough?
Well, I mean, it's lots, I've this doorbelling, and this woman was like, gotten those kind of a thing about, well, you know, you house people, but then people are still addicted and they still have to do bad things to support their addiction, which to me, the darkest one is when people start to do sex trading, just to not want to steal. And it's just dark. And I know, you know, I'm just stuff people tell me, but I haven't been there myself, and I appreciate you allowing me to be in your space when I haven't been through what you all have been through. So, but I said to the woman, well, if you want safe supply so bad, you know, she was a doctor too. She's like, we just need to get to a point where it's safe supply. And I go, well, go fucking buy the fentanyl yourself.
Yeah.
Go do it. And go ahead.
Yeah.
Right. And then, but I'm like, go, if you're so big on, rather than making people sandwiches and backpacks and doing whatever you do for whatever charity you are that believes it should be safe supply, just go buy it and give it to people so they don't have to. I mean, I know often when I give somebody a gift card or $10 or a stipend or whatever, that they're going to go flip that and buy drugs. And then I think, well, I definitely know that that's happening. But yeah, I think that I've seen this too, that there's just, now it's just, that's harm reduction, where nice social workers are like, hey, let's go hand out pills so people don't have to leave their tent and do terrible things to support it.
Well, what also needs to happen is that the toxin was created for short-term problem. It's not a lifetime Band-Aid, and that's what Big Pharma is pushing out. Get a prescription of Suboxone and you're good. Or the methadone, it's like being in prison.
With no egg.
Oh, dude, yeah. Oh, yeah, they try to, absolutely.
Okay, I got a couple more questions for Andrew. Yeah.
Better explain the housing first.
Yeah.
To us, and then the suicide and
Yeah.
kind of everything that goes into it.
Yeah.
But with the housing first, the requirement to enter was treatment and other requirements, I feel like it'd be.
Well, it would solve that issue these guys are talking about with sober living.
And that's,
We should be turning those into big sober livings.
Yes. Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
do a proof of concept on one housing project and says, you're all going to enroll in a program. We're all going to go help them run it, and just proof of concept, just start flipping each one of those houses into treatment centers in place.
We wouldn't have to change much.
Is there room in your Washington State facilities, not facilities, Washington State correctional facilities, is there room to say this mandate, if you do not go to treatment, we are putting you in jail? Is there room in these jails? Because from what I've been told, all these jails are already full.
No, that's a myth.
I think it's the reason why there's not room. Think of it like sorry, this is my little privileged life, like going to a nice restaurant and it's like, well, what do you mean you can't seat me? There's
Yeah.
like 20 tables over there.
Yeah,
And they're
I
like,
say that same thing. I'm like, what the hell?
no, there's nobody to staff you. That's why.
Yeah.
So it's a staffing crisis.
So I think what it is, to be honest, because I've been to school, I've been to Pierce County, I've been to King County, I've been to them all, and they only have so much for these addicts pulling off the streets, right? They got what they call these detox centers that are in these jails. And until they pull and say take half of the population to make these detox centers in these jails, they'll never have room for enough addicts in them. Number one, there's only one section of state score, which is a $100 million facility, right? But there's only one detox section in it, which only holds at max 160 people, right? So of course, yes, it's going to be full after they pulled all these people, mandated all these people off the street. Yes, it's going to be full because that's all they got. You know what I mean? They only have nurses for the 160 people that are in there. They only have nurses for the people that are sitting there shitting beds at night and puking all over the place and doing this and that. And they only have that many beds. You say that there's so many beds, and you say that there's so many open available spots for people to go to jail, but there's not.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not gonna work that way, though. It's gonna work a lot slower than you think it's gonna work.
You're not gonna.
It's gonna work one crime, this guy commits a crime. It's gonna have to go, this is gonna go one at a time, and it's gonna go a lot slower than you think. It's gonna be a movement in the other direction. And it's not gonna be this exodus of all these
So
people.
we're
that
not
you-
talking going into Kansas City.
No, it's not gonna be that way.
No.
It's gonna be this guy gets a this or that. One by one, they're gonna get a this or that. You've got this rap sheet. You either go or you're going to jail. And it's gonna be a lot slower than that. It won't be a mass exodus off the streets. It just wouldn't be that way. It's just a simple thing. We got to this place one at a time. We're gonna change direction and we're gonna go one at a time and clear this up. It doesn't have to be that, because in that order, you would need a camp or something to be put down. But
Like a large respite center, but I think churches and detention centers, they just shut down Garfield back east of Washington. I was like licking my chops. I'm like, there's a treatment center right there. Let's go open it.
yeah, she was telling me.
But things like manufactured homes and pallet shelters, I think you can bring in really quick housing and stabilization centers on that type of property and expand capacity through innovation and adaptive use of different shelter systems like pallet shelters or manufactured, bunker type home things that, you put people in pods, and Kentucky's doing it with their jail pods, and jail bail pods are treatment centers. Okay.
All right, now we have a hot seat question, and now listen, I love Andrea to death, so we can't really call tonight much of a hot seat because there's not much controversy, and I love this woman. I think she's awesome, and I've watched her. She makes me cry when she talks because I cry when I see truth sometimes. So when she talks, I tear up. We're talking power. We're talking somebody that came onto the scene is making a difference. I admire it. I love it. So it's hard for me to do that. I have two questions. One question, I guess, and I'll just leave it at that. In November, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
Kennedy.
Kennedy? Did you see Kennedy working out in those videos? I want to sleep with this man. Have you seen it? You guys didn't see the videos? They're promoting Kennedy and he's jumping out of helicopters. He's doing push-ups. He's fucking hang gliding. He's like, they're making this bionic man. This dude is in shape. I'm like, damn. No, so that's how you're gonna wiggle out. Kennedy isn't gonna be an option. It's the primary will be over. This is
Oh, you're talking about
the general election. You got Kamala Harris or Donald Trump.
Well, I am in the Kamala camp.
She said it. Kamala Harris. Lady.
I mean, wow.
Well, again, one of the things that Andrea's talked about, and I hope that you guys, I'm gonna give it real quick, the overview of what I've been prompting her because I want you to know what I want her to do. And the number one thing I want her to do is I want her to control the money. I said, we got to control the money. We first have to stop the bad ideas and we have to control the money. The second thing we need to do is build the infrastructure. The third thing after we build the infrastructure is we need to mandate treatment. The fourth thing we need to do is we need to control the continuum of care. So a lot of the ideas that you hear, I say, watch out. When you bring different people in to do different treatment, it's not standardized. And some of you people know how many treatment centers you conned. How many treatment centers let you run bullshit? How many treatment centers let you get away with whatever you were getting away with? And part of the problem is keeping people in that continuum and running. So hopefully this plan has been ours from the start for her to get in a position to be able to control the money so that we can so we can stop bad ideas. We can stop wasting $6 million on shit that don't matter. $7 million. They're building what do you call it? A cool off center. They're building is in Seattle, right?
And they're putting a stabilization center. So this is a place for cops to send people, like, just go cool off at the stabilization center. And it's going to be in the Morrison housing project, which is the nickname New Jack City. It is the most shit show, low barrier housing.
So $7 million so they can go watch TV.
And so they're gonna put them in the same place where all the dealers and drugs and crazy intersections of mountains. And it just,
And what's that mean, a timeout center?
it's just like
It means that's where you do drugs in the bathroom and get some food and watch TV.
and that maybe there'll be a chance to talk about treatment there in, like, at least do it not where all the other drugs are, but anyway, yeah.
Well, everyone.
And so that's DESC, and my seatmate, if elected, is Nicole Macri, and she's a high up at DESC, and she pushed to get 7 million for DESC.
What's DEC?
DESC is the Downtown Emergency Shelter, and it's
Coalition.
back from the 70s. It's one of the original government housing.
From the city council.
This came out of Olympia, the legislators, passed it.
Yeah.
Actually, this got rolled up into the city's paying for it because it's in Seattle,
Okay.
but crazy.
Now I want to say once again, thank you guys. Before we go, Emily came tonight, and I want to give a little shout out to what she's done, who she's become. She's selling real estate. I want, and been in this program, graduated. She owns her home, has 2 kids, and 3 kids. You have Drake. I forgot about Drake. Drake hated you for a long time. I forgot. Now he likes you. So you had 1 kid that hated you for a long time, and now he likes you. So owns a sober living, and more importantly, she's building her real estate business. So if you know anyone, if you know anyone that's selling their house, if you know anyone that's buying homes, please contact Emily on Facebook and yeah, she just sold the Pennington's house. She just helped them buy a new place. She's killing it. We need people to go to her and help her build this business. The other thing is our guys here are working hard every day. We're finding work. We're getting the guys out in the truck. We're trying to build that business here too. So we got Pam, if you need anything done, we will come over. We'll do the bid. We'll call you. We'll cleanups, hauling, beauty bark, weeding, tree trimming, on and on and on. We'll do it. Hauling garbage. We're doing all of it. So we need to fill up our schedule for next week. So please contact us on Facebook and let's get that. Really.
They can reach out to me or Art if you've got his number.
Yeah.
And I'll hook you up with Max and whatever we can.
But I don't know if Andrea said anything to piss anyone off tonight. I don't imagine she did. I think we're all on the same page here. And this is, I wanted to introduce her to our community and the community of people on Zoom tonight, and let them know that, she's going to help. And she's just done an amazing job, and I love you, Andrea. And
Thank you,
for
Art.
beginning.
I love you
All right.
too.
Thank you guys.
So I can tell you.